Hey, welcome to the Well Chat, where me and my beautiful sister talk about business, banking, and real estate with Bernicia Poole Watson. All right, girl, who we got?
Okay, today our guest is David Wren. Stay tuned. Hey, David. Welcome to the Wealth Chat.
Hey, Bernicia. How you doing? Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Listen, we are so excited to have you. If we're going to have anyone talk about the subject that you live in and the space that you live in, it's no better person that I can think of but you. So we are so excited to have you. So we're going to just dig deep, okay? Because we dig deep around here. We don't play games. How did David Wren get started? And I don't mean in the space of wealth building.
Yes.
I mean, who are you? Let's talk about it.
Oh, great. Well, first of all, it's good to see you, Jewel Tankard, and thank you so much, Bernicia, for having me on this show. I'm David Wren, the controlling member of Prosperity Mint, it's a full-service precious metals dealership. We're probably one of the few Black-owned precious metals dealership in the space that we command in this country, not in the world, but just in this country. And it actually started with me. I heard you talk about before your journey, and Jewel, I heard you talk about your journey. So the whole process started with me is I was born into this. This is who I am. The precious metals is really who I am. And so I couldn't get away from it as a child. So, but it was always a journey for me to accept that. You get the calling from the great creator, God Almighty. You say, here I am. But before you get that calling, you have to be prepared for that call. So that, as I was growing up in Hackensack, New Jersey, I grew up doing the Hunt brothers little situation when they were taking over cornering the silver market with an unknown royal prince of Saudi Arabia, Muammar Gaddafi. And so I grew up with that being the headline and the current event of what was going on. And, growing up in the projects in New Jersey, my friends weren't interested in it, but I was captivated by it. I was connected to it. And so it really started for me, the precious metals. I remember I was coming out of a convenience store and a young lady, the matriarch of where I grew up, named Latina Briggs. And Latina Briggs said to me, as I'm coming out of the Simple Simon store, she says to me, David, you know that silver is more valuable than gold? And immediately that was my call.
Wait, now how old were you? Coming out of the store?
I was about 13 years old.
Right. 14 years old.
I was about 13, 14 years old.
And this is like the bodega. The local store.
This is the bodega, the local store.
Now, wait a minute. The Hunt brothers, were they Black? Or?
No, the Hunt brothers, they were oil giants, moguls out of Texas, here in Texas. And what happened was when Muammar Gaddafi had took over Libya in the coup, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi took over in the coup. One of the things that he nationalized the oil fields, and the Hunt family had, a lot of infrastructure in Libya, and kicked them out. And so the Hunt brothers went to the U.S. government for support. They didn't get the support from the U.S. government. So what the Hunt family did, and the same Hunt family that owns the Kansas City Chiefs to this day.
Got it.
So they went to...
Now, this is not the ketchup.
No.
Okay. That's somebody different.
No.
Pretend like I didn't say that.
Yeah, no.
Girl, we trying to figure it out.
And so some research.
They went to Muammar Gaddafi directly. And then that's when they brokered a deal. And that's when the Hunt family started cornering the silver market with Muammar Gaddafi, unknown royal prince of Saudi Arabia, who I believe is possibly king right now. If you know the political dynamics of it, you could.
But how did that bring you into precious metals?
So what happened during that time? I was watching that, on the news.
Got it.
And so I went to, growing up in Hackensack, New Jersey, New York City is not far from there. So I went over to New York City, and a commodities broker actually, took me under his wings and started to talk to me and teach me some things. And that was it.
At 14?
At 14 years old. So I went over to New York City and fortunately met a commodities broker. He started teaching me some things, and that was the start. And I knew that the precious metals is where my life's journey and my overall legacy was going to be built. My childhood dream was to be a police officer. So I became a police officer, and I walked into the station one day and said, I resigned because at some point you stop doing your childhood dream. You need to start doing your adult dream.
Wow.
And so that's the precious metals was that for me. So
oh, wow. That is just
in Los Angeles.
Let me write that down. Childhood dream.
There's a big difference.
Dream.
There's a big difference between a childhood dream and an adult dream.
So a lot is happening in the economy right now.
Yes.
I mean, they're talking about Fed now. We were talking about earlier, talking about getting rid of Cash App and Zelle and PayPal, which I'm still out on the jury if that's really going to happen.
Right,
but one thing I do know is that I think that there are three asset classes. One that we all should be focusing on. How is BRICS playing a part? Because if they are now all China, Saudi Arabia getting together saying we're not going to use the United States dollar, that's going to be a weakened dollar. So obviously your thing is, hey, you need to be moving aggressively into gold and silver. What do you think the future is? Because I do think we're moving to a cashless society.
Yes.
What do you think that looks like?
Yes. Well, in 1971, Nixon closed the gold window, and he said that I'm going to temporarily close the gold window. Well, that means that temporarily. So now the gold window is going to be reopened. And I think that BRICS is going to be a big part of that. Brazil, Russia, India, and China, South Africa. That's the acronym. They're adding other countries. Saudi Arabia will be announced as being a BRIC nation as well. And the key with that is that Russia and Saudi Arabia are also a part of OPEC. Right, selling of oil. So they're moving away from, a lot of people call it de-dollarization, where they're not going to use the dollar anymore. The petrodollar status is going to be lost. Yes, that's definitely happening. So each barrel of oil that's traded doesn't have to be settled in US dollars anymore. So that means that countries don't have to have large cash or dollar reserves or treasuries on their books to buy oil. And if you think about oil, how important is oil? A country can't function without oil.
Right.
So that means that I believe that there's going to be a big deportation of U.S. currency. The dollar hegemony is going to be broken. And what that means, a lot of de-dollarization people may miss is there are a lot of loans around the world that are dollar settled in. So I don't think that that's going to be a real problem. But now that countries don't have to use dollars to buy oil, and they don't have to use dollars to buy goods, such as grain, such as cotton, such as any other commodities or necessities, with trade. Since they don't have to use that anymore, they're using their own currency to strengthen their own country's economy and no longer have a middleman as the US dollar by using SWIFT. Yeah. So that means that they're not going to need that currency and it's going to come back here. And this is where you start to have the depreciation, or where your dollar is losing purchasing power. Just like you go to the store, everybody thinks you're paying more for chicken. You're not. You have to give up more dollars for chicken. Chicken is still the same. So it's not that the prices are going up. It's just the overall purchasing power of the dollars going down. And that's a killer for, especially in our community, if we're not prepared for that.
Yeah.
Now, what about in Europe? They're saying that it's also costly. Is it because
Sure.
their money is going down too?
Sure. Europe is very dependent on, Europe doesn't have any really natural resources. So they have to get their oil, their natural gas from Russia. And Russia has now, because of the Ukraine situation, they've dropped using the US dollar. And in dropping the US dollar, what they did was they supplemented it by using their ruble that's backed by gold. You're going to see that more. And the United States is also doing that now. You can look at HR 5404 and other bills that are sitting in Congress right now to stop using the dollar without having it a fiat of gold. And most people think that fiat means it's worthless. No, fiat just means that it's decreed by the government that that's what they're using as supporting their currency.
So based on that, though, wouldn't you say we need to probably be as Americans saving gold and silver
Definitely.
aggressively.
Yes.
Even if you still have the dollar debt system being, the primary trade medium of exchange.
Right.
If you don't have real money, see, there's a big difference. The US dollar is currency. The gold and silver is money because God made it and it sustains life. Everything that God makes sustains life. Our relationship sustains life, right? Yeah. Gold and silver sustains life. But the US dollar is not a form of money. It's only a currency because it doesn't sustain life with meaning from its intrinsic value. Silver is antimicrobial, antibacterial. So it kills, you can purify water with it. You can't purify water with a dollar. You have to go buy a water purification system with your dollars, and then that will do it. So because we should naturally, you can't, in our community, you hear people say, hey, king, hey, queen. How can you be a king or queen and you don't have any assets? How can you be a king and a queen and you don't have any money? You're because the wage of a king and a queen, queen is silver. Every king and queen is paid in silver. The wage of a lady and a gentleman, someone that works for a king and a queen, is gold. A lady and gentleman that works for a king and a queen is paid in gold. And the wage of a slave is debt. Every slave is paid in debt. So what does that mean? If you look at how you're paid, this economy and the system knows that you're a slave to its agenda. That's why they pay you in currency and not in money. There are people that get paid in money. I get paid in money. And I'm a prodigious saver. That's one of the critical things of becoming wealthy. First of all, you have to first realize that wealth is who you already are. Yeah. You can't obtain wealth. You can just move yourself as a wealthy individual to increasing your wealth, because you can't really take away of the overall intrinsic value that the great creator God Almighty put in you. That's money. So now you increase your wealth. And so one of the most important things and starts with creating wealth is you have to first become a prodigious saver, not a consumer. Right. I don't buy a shirt and look at the price tag. I don't care what the price tag is. I look at how many ounces of silver do I have to give up to get that shirt. If it's not worth it, there's no value that's there, then I'm not going to engage in a relationship that's not valuable to me and to my family.
So what I'm catching is value for value.
Yes. Okay. Value over price.
Yes.
Right? Because we go to school, they teach us to know the price of everything while knowing the value of nothing. Nothing. And because of that, that's why we become financially disenfranchised. Yeah. And so you have to. You have to. Yeah. We have to. Yeah. It's real money. Yeah. It's survive. Every single currency collapse and every financial crisis is God's money always. Yeah. How can you profess to be a child of God but on the devil's payroll? It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Because people literally can buy other assets with silver and gold now.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. They're moving in this country to make it legal tender, meaning that if you use gold and silver, let's say, to buy property, there is no property tax because there's no mortgage and there's no debt and there's no bond. It's paid out and so there's no property tax. So that's what's so great about the precious metals. It gives you a lordly title.
What percentage of people do you think purchase with gold and silver though?
Well, right now, I think that it's not as widely traded now, but let's have 2 more or 3 more banking crises and you see how many people come running into it. But Jewel and Benicia, the supply of precious metals is finite. It's only so much of it. Right. So you're going to be competing against people that have already got a head start and you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. This is why our community, our tribe really needs to move on this now. It's our inheritance. It's our birthright. We knew what money was for so long until we got on the devil's payroll.
Wow. Yeah. Benicia, so many takeaways, right?
It's so lot. Good. It's a lot. So I want to speak to the people who are not familiar with gold and silver, right? Where does gold and silver come from? Is it from the earth? Is it from a tree? I want people to understand, like, what is this? What is this piece?
Yes. Benicia, very few people ask that very important pointed question. And it is there, the silver and gold that we see now, that we know now, is extraterrestrial. It comes from a star going into supernova. And that's why President Obama in 2015 signed into law that private citizens and private American companies can mine asteroids and celestial bodies because they know there's a lot of precious metals that's on that. And so, but it's a whole lot to it. Does the earth produce, like the earth water is abiotic. Right. Silver and gold is abiotic, but it's so deep in the earth's crust, you can't get to it.
You can't get to it. This conversation has been so good. I can't believe, girl, can you believe we're out of time already? David, this was amazing. I hope people really got some strong takeaway and start saving, right?
Yeah.
Gold and silver on a consistent basis. We need a part two.
What you think, David?
Yeah.
Definitely. It's so much. It's so much.
David, this is so good. Benicia, I know we're over here like just eating all this up, but we are going to be right back after this break.
Welcome back, guys. This is the Wealth Chat where we talk business, banking, and real estate. And today, our special guest is David Wren. We stopped right before we were getting ready to get really, really juicy, right? And so I want to continue this conversation. Extraterrestrial, let's go with it.
Yeah, so the silver and gold, whenever you hold 1 ounce of silver, you're holding the most direct representation of the sun, the sun, because that's where silver and gold comes from. What happens is a star goes into supernova. On its explosion, it emits a lot of its overall contents, and part of the contents that is emitting and shooting out into the universe is the precious metals. And it's scientifically been proven that the bigger the star, the heavier the star, the more silver it has. And if you think about it, the silver acts just like the sun, right? It's the greatest conduit of heat and electricity. You can have a reflection. Mirrors have to have silver in it for that to happen. So, and it's also, it's biblical. If you really think about it, it's biblical. And most of us don't know that it's biblical. But from this point, you've heard in the Bible where it says, let there be light.
Right.
It's the first thing that God said.
Right.
Well, the correct way to say that is let there be silver. No silver, no light. So now you can see the importance of silver. That's why it's more valuable than gold. And this country and many countries know that, but they keep that from the general public because they don't want to compete with you for the overall finite amount of this critical infrastructure. This critical element as silver.
I'm curious of this, and Benicia, you might be thinking this too. I'm curious to ask you, how much would you say? Because in my mind, I'm thinking the average person should be saving at least 5 to 10 ounces a month just to get on a consistent auto save. What would you recommend?
Right. And I think, Jewel, it's really dependent upon that person's discipline. This is me. I don't think that someone should be on my discipline. But I definitely think you should grow to my discipline. Yeah. Because this is my discipline. Whatever I don't want to lose in cash, I put into money. Because once you put it into money, it can't be lost. Right? So starting off until you learn more as to why this works. And because one of the things in going into business and in saving and investing, there's a learning curve. There's a proper way to do things. Jewel, you had to learn so many things to get to where you are. Benicia, you had to learn a whole lot to get to where you are. And sometimes I think that people try to look at other people where they are and try to mimic that, but they forgot the beginning part. Yeah. Before you become a millionaire, how about becoming a 100-aire and a 1,000-aire and a 10,000-aire and then become a millionaire? Because if you're a millionaire and you live like a millionaire, you're broke. You're broke. So it's the saving part of it is the discipline. You start where you are. So if it's 5 ounces, if it's 1 ounce, or if it's 100 ounces or 1,000 or 10,000 ounces. You should set a goal,
right?
Like you spoke about. Before, I've heard you say it so many times, your goal setting. You have to start somewhere. And that starts with your discipline to commit to building your overall accumulation of wealth.
Okay. So, I speak for the people in the back.
Yes.
And I think the people in the back want to know. We know it's extraterrestrial. We know that you cannot find it in most places, but like I can open an oyster and I can find a pearl.
Yes.
I can go to the mine in Peru and find diamonds or something,
right,
or whatever. Where can I find so I can go and get some? I know the gold rush in California. I know that they were digging and they found gold.
Sure.
So how deep in the earth is it like granite? Like, where do you get it?
Yeah. So great questions. Some of the things is that since there aren't as many silver veins left, most of the low-hanging fruit in silver has already been actually mined. Right. It's been tapped into and mined. And one thing about silver that most people may not be aware of is that we consume silver. So silver is probably going to be the first element on the periodical table to go extinct because we've been consuming it. Nuclear weapons, you can't make a nuke without silver. Right? Most people don't know that. That's how the United States became so wealthy because they were the first ones to be able to weaponize silver. They were trying to make nukes and they had copper and it wouldn't work. Well, the Nazi German scientists that were schooling them said, you need to have silver. And guess what? That's when the Manhattan Project took from the U.S. Treasury all of the silver to build nukes. So that shows the importance of it. So they've been consuming silver. That's why silver is the best precious metal to have right now because it's going to give you much more profitability than gold. It's 10 times more valuable than gold.
Wow.
Because it's the only one that can save your life.
What do you think with Fed now? They're saying they're going to get rid of Zelle, Cash App, PayPal. Do you think it's really going to happen? How would you tell listeners to prepare? Because I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do feel like something is happening. So how would you tell people to prepare?
Yeah, great question, Joe. I think it's really of a measure of that's a payment system. Either way, it's going to be a payment system. And I think it's not money, right? Even though they're going to a cashless society, physical cash gives you some measure of benefit. You can make an anonymous purchase. You can take care of things that can't be tracked or traced, right? One of the things I think that the government really has to be careful of is anytime that they put a prohibition on anything, the black market takes over. Think about abortion. Think about prostitution. Think about drugs. Whenever they invoke a prohibition on something, what happens is that the black market takes over and they lose control. So I'm really think that they've been doing this stuff for a while. They've been governing for a while. So I think that they're going to be tempered in their approach to get more people. They're going to make it more convenient so people could be more complacent and not get away from things that may be beneficial to them. Whatever they want to do, I don't care what the White House does. I take care of the Wren house. That's the only house I really vote for.
Yeah.
So right now we're discussing gold and silver. And when people think of the two, they think gold is just more. It's more valuable. It's more shinier. It's just more, right?
Because they look at the price.
Right. But at this point, silver is worth more than gold.
Silver is more valuable than all of the precious metals combined. I'll give you an example of that. You remember when Haiti had their earthquake and cholera started breaking out all over Haiti? You couldn't send gold down there to get the cholera out of the water. You know what the only thing that they could do? They had silver impregnated filters that got the overall cholera out of the water. So even if you had standing water at curbside, you can run it through a silver impregnated filter. And guess what? It's potable, fresh water that you can drink.
Wow.
So gold can't do that. Gold has its intrinsic value. Gold is what makes you all so pretty. This is anti-aging because this is why every astronaut, if you look at their face shield, is made of 24 karat gold. Everything that goes that NASA sends into space that faces the sun has to be layered in 24 karat gold, right? And if it's not, then the sun will short circuit it. So anti-aging, you use gold.
Wow.
That's what you use gold for. That's why they put it in makeup and things of that nature. And that's why you hear the old saying that in our community, black don't crack, because we have more gold in our melanin. The fountain of youth is not the water, is actually the gold that's in the water. So everything has this intrinsic value. You know, the great creator God Almighty is so powerful. Everything that he creates sustains life.
Yeah.
So, and I know it's your turn, girl, but I got
Go
something
ahead, girl.
on my
Go
mind,
ahead,
child.
Go ahead, Auntie.
For people who they've gotten over the decision to say, okay, I'm interested.
Yes.
And then they've educated themselves. They know where it comes from. They know that one is worth more than the other, but they're both valuable.
Yes.
How do they acquire this? Who do they contact? Because I've never Googled, or I know the average person doesn't Google gold and silver and how to buy it. Like, you know, we have the commercials that have been running on TV since we were all little kids. Like, you see these 1-800 numbers and they tell you to buy it from them, but that's not the only source. How do they acquire gold? How do they acquire silver? How do they acquire precious metals?
Yes. I would say, you know, that's a platform that, you all are going to be engaging in. You want to have just getting the precious metals. I will tell you this. If you're just going to buy from online or from coin dealers, that's great. But our clients love for people to do that, because what happens is if you don't know what you have, you're going to lose it. And you're going to be giving it to me and my clients, and you're not even going to know it. So you really have to get educated. It's really an educational process, because it's really the basics of finances, starting with what are you saving with? What are you using? If you're using God's money, you're great. Ladies, how many times have you in your life has a man broken a promise to you?
They don't break promises to me.
Well, maybe someone else. But how many times have men said something or made a promise?
Yeah, it's happened.
And it happens many, right? How many times has a promise been broken by the great creator God Almighty? Never.
Not one time.
So why are we focusing so much on a paper promise when you had God's promise, and you're always going to endure?
Yeah.
So, but you have to learn. You have to be re-educated.
Right.
We don't need the schooling. We need an education.
Yeah.
And education is based off of experience that works. So that's really, you need to get a precious metals, education, because if you don't, what's going to happen is that you're going to lose it because you're price sensitive. You're unaware of value.
Yeah. So quick question. How are some of the applicable ways? Because I know what I've done in the past when I decided, hey, I'm going to grab this house or grab another asset, because I always try to move one asset into another, right?
Yes.
I would go cash it in.
Yes.
I have yet to take in, my gold and silver and say, I want to buy this house. I would cash it in and then go do the house. The other thing is I know there's a difference between keeping it in your safe.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or of course, safety deposit box, which I'm a little concerned with, because if the bank's closed, you can't get it.
Right.
And so you can keep it in your safe at the crib, or you can still do the bank if you just must. And then, of course, you can do it now with a SEP RA, where you can have your gold and silver set up within your retirement plan to create your ROI. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I will tell you my preferred way. I tell you one thing that I don't need to happen for me and for my clients. I advise them this way, and I live this. I don't just speak this. I live this.
Right.
No one needs to hold my money.
Right. Right.
Because one of the things that people don't know is you can't own gold and silver. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Whoever possesses it has it. Even if you put your name on gold and silver, your social security number, all I have to do is put fire to it, and where's that name and that social security number? It's gone. Right. So how can you claim right? So what you want to do, I will tell you, I wouldn't put it in a safety deposit box, and I'm not a big proponent on putting it in a depository. There are other things that you could do, safe measures of possessing it, because that's very important. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Okay. And so that is, and to your other point, Jewel, you asked about, exchanging one asset for another. You're absolutely right. That's what you always do with money. You always exchange money for an asset. BIS, Bank of International Settlement, said now that silver, gold, platinum, and palladium is now a tier 1 asset starting in 2022. So all of the banks have to start to have, for all of their depositors, they have to start having gold, physical gold and silver against their depositor. So it's a tier 1 asset, meaning it's better than cash deposit. So that day is coming and is here because countries no longer trust debt.
Yeah.
They want collateral.
Yeah. Wow. This has been so good.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're out of time, girl.
I got one more question before we go. If you want to cash out your gold and silver, where do you take it? Can you go into your traditional bank and do it, or do you have to come to a dealer to do it?
Yes. The banks, the gold window is closed. So generally, if you're going to, you could do that anywhere in the world because there's money anywhere in the world. You would have to just go to a coin dealer. Or in some places, some banks may even do that, but it's it's a place everywhere in the world. You could do it everywhere in the world.
And then when you trade it in, what's the time frame that it's typically released to your
It depends on the dealer or the transaction
you should cash
itself.
out right there, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you can cash out there.
Yeah.
It can be instant. It definitely is always. You should always have it instant, but you should never cash out. You never give up your money for currency.
Yeah.
You should be leveraging your money to create debt.
Yeah. Woo!
Perfect.
That's so good. Oh my gosh, David, thank you so much. We so thoroughly enjoyed having you. This was amazing. And so this has been the end of the Wealth Chat. Okay, Benicia, what do they need to do, girl?
You guys need to do what? Smash that subscribe button and subscribe to our socials. Have you ever wondered how moguls move? My name is Benicia Poole Watson.
And I'm Jewel Tankard.
And we are
The Wealth Chat, where we talk about business, banking, and real estate.
If you like what you just heard, smash that like button.
And make sure you subscribe to our channels.